down Higgins and Broadway, through the North Side, South Hills, even Mullen Road and East Missoula. Sponsor a billboard ad on the Mountain Line and come face-to-face with tens of thousands of potential customers every week. With 6 clean new electric buses, there's never been a better time to be seen on the bus. Roll your brand round and round, all through town on the Mountain Line. Round and round. Call 721-6800 today.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? Do you want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policies? The Montana Renewable Energy Association is a leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future is powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
Last May, Ten Spoon Winery partnered with the Historical Museum with Hello to Old Missoula, Missoula's History Through Art, an event where attendees voted on their favorite piece of art, which would become the next Ten Spoon wine label. Votes were counted, and Megan Odell's piece depicting the 1990s Roxy Theater fire was the winner. Now you can drink wine for history, as Ten Spoon is dedicating a portion from every bottle of Roxy Fire wine sold to the Historical Museum. Find it now at local retailers or call 406-549-8703. Americans waste 3.8 million gallons of gas by idling every single day. Idling for more than 10 seconds actually uses more fuel and produces more emissions than stopping and restarting.
Vehicle exhaust, smog, climate, or air quality. Kids and seniors are especially vulnerable.
So next time you're stopped for more than 10 seconds at the train, getting coffee, or picking your child up from school, please turn your vehicle off.
Brought to you by Missoula in Motion.
Western Montana, KKPU, HD, Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on 875 ES Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tootell and Coulter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. A pleasant pre-Christmas Friday afternoon headed into evening to you. And the day before, Week 16 of the NFL gets started on a Saturday, and the national semifinals of the FCS playoffs, in which not one but 2 Big Sky teams are in, and the Montana State Bobcats, half of that equation. Great to be with you. It is Tootell and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN radio and across the state on SWX Montana television. We are happy to be with you. We are on site today at the Southgate Mall here in the Clock Tower area. Come on by, say hello. We're going to be here for the next 3 hours, 2 of them on the radio, and then another hour afterwards. We've got a bunch of stuff to give away. We're going to have a good time, and hey, you got to get your shopping done. Come on by, say hi to us, hang out with us. We got some swag for you. Coulter, not a bad spot.
Clock court right here. Ryan's dying already. That's okay. We'll persevere. But to come see us down at Southgate Mall, I know no matter who you are, you got extra shopping.
You know,
I got the Missoula paddlehead here. I might have to.
Exactly. They got the new logos are sweet. I've said that all along. I was a little parched. This is probably a good spot to just take a quick break and have our Friday afternoon Florence Coffee Company coffee. I needed to get a little sip in, clearly, right off the start here. Friday, you got a big night ahead of you, a big holiday weekend out in front of you. Get your weekend started the right way. Go to a Florence Coffee Company coffee kiosk, get yourself a latte, an iced coffee, drink, whatever. It's plenty warm. Ice.
That's right. I've been sweating all day. Gosh, it's abnormally warm for this time of year, though. I always don't wear a coat until it's
properly
frigid.
Yeah.
Acclimation. And we've only had a couple days where I was like, man, really need that coat.
That's the way you got to go. Absolutely. Well, you go on down to a Florence Coffee. No matter where you are right now, you're going to have yourself a great Friday night and a great weekend there. Thanks to Florence Coffee Company for setting this up for us. We are broadcasting live from the Southgate Mall, but through the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Go online to 1029ESPN.com if you'd like to listen to the stream. You can listen live via the Listen Live tab. The stream is there. It's there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. And if you want to call, 329-1899 is the phone number. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. Colter, let's take a look at what we got in the show today. A bunch of stuff to get to. We're going to talk Montana State versus North Dakota State here off the start and take a look at all the matchups and everything that goes into this football game. We talked a lot about both teams. We haven't talked a lot about this exact matchup per se, so we will get into that a little bit. We also have Caleb Stringer. He's our Mattress Firm Student of the Week from Great Falls CMR. He's a linebacker for the Rustlers. Also throws shot and discus. He's your type of guy, Colter, so he's going to join us here in just a little bit. We also, this is big time now. The chick who doesn't know sports joins us every single Friday for the first time ever, live. She's doing it with us live out in public. She's always trying to hide, doesn't want people to know. She's going to be here with us, so we'll do that for you at about 4:45. Top of the hour, looking forward to this. Kyle Emanuel going to join us. He is a former North Dakota State linebacker, was drafted in the 5th round, won the Buck Buchanan Award, drafted in the 5th round by the San Diego Chargers, and played several years in the league, 4 or 5 years in the league, and is now part of the Bison broadcast. So we're going to bring him in and talk to him about the North Dakota State-Montana State matchup as well. So plenty of stuff to get to here on a Friday afternoon. Show Outlook brought to us by Shine Auto Detailing, online at shineautodetailing.net. So there you go. There's a look at the show for you today. Colter, North Dakota State, Montana State. Tomorrow, kicking off noon Mountain Standard Time on ESPN2. Looking forward to this football game. You and I think are going to sit down and take this thing in together. You're going to be tweet storming, but I'm going to be feeding you the information. So when you're reading at Skyline Sports MT tomorrow, just know that's at Gus Tootell, who's giving you all the good info. I just can't type fast. You got the digits to set them on fire like that. But when you look at this game, just initially, you've talked about the fact that you can't out North Dakota State. We said that sort of thing. Like, you don't want to line up and do what they do because they're going to do it better than you. You have to do something else. And yet, broadly speaking, broad strokes, these two teams do want to do the same thing. Montana State wants to go ahead and be tough on defense and be, locked down really both directions, but especially in the run game. And they want to run the ball all over the place. North Dakota State, they also want to run the ball all over the place. Both these teams have the capability to do it. Which one is able to do it better tomorrow?
Well, I think that one thing that's Jeff Choate preaches his concept of culture and what he wants the mentality of his team to be so often, so relentlessly, that I think that one of the number one underrated factors of Montana State is actually their speed and athleticism. We think of this Bobcat team as tough because that's what Choate talks about. But when you actually think about Montana State's defense, who is actually a power player?
Yeah,
Chase Benson is, and Callahan O'Reilly is. The two guys in the center. Everybody else is dominating with athleticism.
People equate toughness with something like the literal imposition of will, where I'm just going to pick you up and move you. But there's plenty of tough guys that are 170 pounds. Maybe the toughest guys are 170
100%.
pounds. But to your point, Montana State can be tough and quote-unquote athletic, fast, speed guys, as opposed to power in the North Dakota State sense of the word power.
Think of Amandre Williams. I think Amandre Williams has gotten less shine because he's not a returning starter from last year. He's not a Montana guy. He's not a captain. But Amandre Williams has been the number one factor in Montana State defense because his ability to actually play the buck position as it's supposed to be played allowed Montana State to then move Bryce Stirk to strong end. It allowed Montana State to move Derek Marks to free tech. It allows Montana State to play Chase Benson inside, outside, all across the interior spots. And I have no idea because he's never gotten touched. That athletic, sheds blocks, his pass rush skills, and his high motor and his ability to not let anybody touch him is unbelievable. Yeah. And he got third-team All-League this year. I thought he should have been first-team All-League. That buck spot is so hard to nominate a guy at because it's a hybrid position. You're always going to kind of fall through the cracks. But his production's been unreal. He's got 16.5 tackles for loss, and he's been sort of the linchpin because his presence has been allowed them to move guys all around. Look at what Montana State does. They do it with athleticism way more than they do it with power. That's not to say they don't have powerful guys. Mike Sturck, Chase Benson are powerful guys. But it's way more of a flash than it is a thud. And on the other side of the ball, I think that's going to be the key matchup. Montana State's offensive line has continued to mature and mature. And Jeff Choate said something interesting. My number one child. That's a good thing. Well, Garfield. These two teams. Hold on.
Coulter, what are the chances that you put, and I'm sorry, I think we had a little technical difficulties, but I think we've gotten it sorted out now. Coulter, when you take a look at this game, what are the chances that you put on the Montana State Bobcats actually pulling off the victory here and getting the win? What percent do you put it out? Because we've looked at this a lot. We've talked about the optimism, but you still continue to sit here and go, not so fast.
I mean, it's just so hard to say that anybody has a chance in a place where a team has only ever lost one time in the history of the playoff. I mean, North Dakota State is 32-1 at the Fargo Dome in the postseason. They've won 27 straight home games. So this is a program that they don't even know how to lose at home. And so, I mean, I think Montana State has done as good a job improving their roster in 1 year when you talk about the rematch in the playoffs as any team you think of. I also think Montana State has almost every element. But this game's going to come down to two things in my mind. Because Montana State's going to be able to hang up front, both sides. It's going to come down to, can their skill position make plays, and do they use their speed, and what do they get from Tucker? They're going to have, Rovig's going to have to hit 2 or 3 long bombs. And that just, with him, with the way that they're operating on offense, it comes down to just chucking. Just chuck it up to Kevin Cassis, let him make a play. But just don't throw a pick. Don't belt in the moment. You have to just stay within yourself, but hit a couple big plays. That'll be key for Montana.
Okay, but you didn't do the thing that I said to do, and that's put a percentage on it. What's your percent chance that Montana State wins?
I mean, I said this earlier today on a hit I did up in Kalispell. I would have put the percentage of any team winning in Fargo in the playoffs over the last 4 years, with the exception of the James Madison team that did win, at 0%. No chance. There was no chance.
That was your Burn Street Bistro Burn of the Week.
0 chance, says Coulter, blowing it up for the Burn Street Bistro. But now what?
I think that Montana State has a 5 to 8. I think 1 out of 12 matchups Montana State can win.
I mean, 1 out of 12 is like 8%, like you said. I think they're 1 and 8. I got them at 12%. What do you think about that?
I mean, maybe. Here's the thing. So often in college football, even the absolute highest level of college, the team that loses. North Dakota State has not beaten themselves in almost a decade.
Yeah.
Not once. That's crazy. So you're going to have to beat them. You can't rely on them making a mistake. Like, it's not as if Trey Lance is just going to go throw 3 picks. It's not happening. So it just comes down to, it takes an element of luck, or can you have a missed tackle on a fly sweep that gets a 70-yard touchdown?
Look, here's the thing. I'm certainly not picking Montana State to win. But if you want to look at this on the reason why they can, it is as follows. North Dakota State, for as great as they've been, and they're great again this year, is not as good against the run in particular as they've been. Totally. Now, they have still been dominant where it matters, and that's what? Scoring defense. I mean, their scoring defense is through the floor in the best possible sense.
11.4 points.
Okay, but that, not being able to cash in the red zone is obviously their red zone defense is outstanding, and that's really the moneymaker. That's where you get it done. There's no reason to think that it won't be stout again. Nonetheless, Montana State, they run the ball, and they run it in a very unorthodox fashion, and they do it very, very effectively with a ton of guys who know what in the world they're doing, both carrying the ball and blocking the ball carrier. They're going to pick up yards on the ground. That's going to happen. And I do think that there is some opportunity to actually get that thing and stick it across the line. So I think Montana State is a better run team than just about every team. And take nothing away from even Illinois State last week with Robinson. He had a nice day, nice first quarter, really, 58 yards, I think, in the first quarter, still didn't get to 100. But he's one guy doing the same thing, running power and counter, and as great as he is, and he's outstanding, there's no versatility in it. I mean, you can run it every different type of way you want to, but they're turning the ball and they're handing it to the running back. They can't throw the ball, and that's it, and that's all. Montana State presents a lot more that you have to keep your eyes disciplined with, and a lot more looks that teams, can't really prepare. You can't teach what it is like to go against a guy who runs a 4.3, and you can only prepare so much for all of the really, truly different looks that you're going to end up getting from Montana State Bobcats on the ground. The other thing, if you want to, again, continue to look at this on the optimistic side, Tucker Rovig has been much better the last month of football than he was in the first 2 months that he was playing in this season. And he's going to have to be good again tomorrow. I don't think he has to be all of a sudden the second coming of anybody, but he has to be the best version of himself. And he can't throw interceptions, which he has not done. He has not been prone to throwing the ball to the other team. But he is going to have to complete some balls probably down the field at some point just to keep things honest on the North Dakota thing. Will he be able to do that? I don't know, but he can do that, which I wouldn't have said a month ago. Like, if you would have asked me, is he capable of doing that? I would have said, no, he's not capable. He's shown that he is capable of that now, and so I think that is reason for optimism for Montana State fans as well. And then defensively, I mean, they've been absolutely lights out. You're going against a great team, a great quarterback offensively, and again, the hesitation I have here is I think people continue. You talked about people think that Montana State, because they get talked about as being tough all the time, they forget that they're actually an athletic speed team in a lot of instances. That happens to the Bison as well. They have such a huge and dominant offensive line that people forget, their running backs are absolutely lightning. Their wide receivers haven't been as good this year, but their quarterback, especially Trey Lance, he can do it all, absolutely everything through the air and with his legs as well. I think that's something that is not paid enough attention to. Nonetheless, if you ever wanted to have a defense to try and stop that, it's probably the Cats.
Well, and that's the thing is North Dakota State certainly is not at the caliber they were last year. Their athleticism. Ty Brooks, Adam Cofield are not Lance Dunn and Bruce Anderson. None of their receivers like Darius Jeffers on the outside. So they have quote unquote downgraded in that element. The two ways that Montana State resembles Boise State, and that's sort of the blueprint. Jeff Choate worked for Chris Peterson at both Boise State as well as Washington. But the two ways the Cats most resemble Boise State is the ever-evolving and diverse defense that they run, which is no surprise considering Pete Kwiatkowski was at Montana State and then was at then Boise State, then Washington, and then Kane Ione, the defensive coordinator at Montana State, just spent 2 years as an analyst for Pete Kwiatkowski. So the ever-evolving defense, that makes sense for sure. But the other place, and this comes 100% from Matt Miller, and this is Matt Miller's biggest influence on Montana State, is the prevalence and the fortitude to run trick play. And trick plays are so tenuous in big games because if you hit them, you look like a genius. If you hit them, when you run the backside fly sweep with Tyrone Marshall and Tyrone Marshall beats Robbie Houck to the corner of the end zone, and it's a 29-yard touchdown, some people don't even know that was a trick play. They just think it was a well-executed run play where a guy beat you to the edge. But then sometimes you run the swinging gate from your own 30 against Sac State, and now you're down 21-7 because you screwed it up and it was a fourth down, and
you're the biggest dope in the history of the world.
You look like a dope. But you have to give them credit. It's just like those Chris Peterson Boise State teams. They're going to dial it up, and that's the thing. That's the number one parallel I would make is that what's one of the biggest upsets in college football? Boise State against Oklahoma. Boise State against Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
In the, I believe it was the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, the most epic comeback, and then the Statue of Liberty play, and how do you slay a dragon? How do you beat the number one team in the country? You got to roll the dice, and you got to hit it. You have to hit the jackpot when you do it.
You know, I thought this was interesting. You told me, Austin Peay, when they went to Sacramento State, they weren't leaving anything to the next week. They put it all on the table for Sacramento State, and then all on tape. And they won that game. They won it handily. They did their only onside kick and everything. But they really, there was nothing left for them in terms of, I don't know, surprise factor, I guess, to a certain extent. Now, you can always draw stuff up during the week, but I think Montana State, this is that game for them where they haven't had to, get out there, even though what they do in general is unorthodox, so that helps them. But I think that there is going to be some pretty interesting stuff that you're going to see, and they're certainly going to run some things in this game tomorrow that this will be the first time that they have run it, maybe ever in the history of Jeff Choate, certainly the first time this year. And so that's stuff that I'll be looking for as well. I think it's a very good point.
The other thing worth mentioning, and this is what our mic dropped when I was making the point, but when he is juiced up, Isaiah Ifanse might be the best running back in the country. He's certainly in the conversation. And in terms of power backs, I have not seen someone like him. And he's back to full strength. He's rushed for almost 500 yards in the last game. I mean, he was a revelation against the Grizzlies. He was dominant against Austin.
Dominant.
So, I mean, is he going to go out and rush for 200 yards against NDSU? Really unlikely. But having him back in the fold, it's been one of the most underrated factors to the surge for the Cats. Joe talked about it all year. We're doing this without Troy Anderson and Isaiah Ifanse. Well, now they got one of those two guys back. That's a shot.
Hey, it's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Happy to be with you here on a Friday afternoon, headed into evening. Coulter and I are live on location at the Southgate Mall. You got to come on by here. We got so much stuff to give away you wouldn't believe it. We got an Eddie Bauer grab bag. We got a Cloud Alpha headset. This is like for those gamers. Coulter, have you heard about these gamers? These kids out there on the interwebs doing the things. Hey, you want to make your gaming kid, gaming husband, whatever it is, happy, gaming self? Come on down here and sign up for all these prizes that we're giving away. Also got some PNC stuff, some whey protein, the Coulter style goodies here, and a bunch of ESPN swag. We're right here at the Clock Tower, so come on by as we're cruising around. We got the piano being played, and we got also coming up the Chick Doesn't Know Sports. So come on down, say hello to us, and get all your Christmas shopping done at the Southgate Mall. Hey, we'll take a quick break. On the other side, it is our Mattress Firm Student of the Week, Caleb Springer. He's PMR. He is playing linebacker, throwing discuses, and building houses for underprivileged folks. Pretty cool guy. We'll talk to him right after this.
Tis the season for a festive holiday feast at the Montana Club with mouth-watering dishes like our cranberry brie walnut tarts and pork Diane, or savor our Chardonnay salmon or blackened shrimp fillet. Be sure to wrap up your celebration with our decadent pecan rum raisin cake, all available for a limited time only through January 5th. See the full menu at montanaclub.com. Happy holidays from all of us at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Colton Nuanez from your favorite daily sports talk show, Tootell Nuanez. I'm here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom, last winter I got a sweet car starter, something I think everybody needs.
You know, Colton, I couldn't agree more, and my wife sure thinks so too. We've got a lot of sweet deals. We actually have it capable now where you can start it from your phone from anywhere you'd like. We have two-way remotes that'll confirm to you the vehicle started all the way down to our basic package starting at just $299 installed. Come on in and check us out.
Aspen Sound.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Evening, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. The Final Four of the FCS playoffs features a pair of Big Sky Conference teams for the first time since 1981. As number 5, Montana State plays at number 1, NDSU. And number 3, Weber State travels to number 2, James Madison tomorrow. The last time two teams from the Big Sky played in the national semifinals, and when Idaho State and Boise State made the Final Four 38 years ago.
Amazing to think Idaho State once won a national.
Yeah.
The Bobcats are into the semifinals for the first time since 1984 and are gunning for their first FCS national title since that magic season 35 years ago. Montana State 11-3 and on a 6-game winning streak that has the Bobcats allowing less than 60 yards rushing 5 different times. MSU takes on a North Dakota State team in search of its 8th national title in the last 9 years.
Weber State, the 3-time defending Big Sky champions, eliminated the Montana Grizzlies last week to advance to the national semifinals for the first time in program history. The ferocious senior defensive end duo of Jonah Williams and Adam Rodriguez are the leaders of a defensive unit, giving up just 20 points per game, thanks in part to a pass rush that has totaled 44 sacks. The Wildcats take on James Madison, trying to make their 3rd national title run, including their 2nd since 2016.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, broadcasting live through the Chris Polaris studios. Chris Polaris at 2904 West Broadway and Missoula Highway 83 and Sealy online at chrispolaris.com. We, Coulter and I, are live from the Southgate Mall today. Holiday, man, I love the lights and they got everything decorated up. It's December 20th, people. I know you haven't gotten your shopping done. Come on down, hang out with us. We got people signing up here. We got a bunch of stuff to give away, headsets for the gamers in your life. A very nice Eddie Bauer grab bags, Eddie Bauer gear in there, some weekend stuff as well. And I think we got some gift cards as well that we'll be giving away. But we'll be here throughout the rest of the show. And then for an hour afterwards, come on by. If you're cruising around Missoula looking for something to do, come get dinner, get some shopping done, and come give Coulter and I a high five. So come on by and say hi. We'll be looking forward to seeing you. It's time now for our Mattress Firm Student of the Week, Caleb Stringer. He is from Great Falls CMR. He's a football player and a track athlete, a thrower there for the Rustlers, a senior, and an all-around good kid. Enjoy our conversation with Caleb Stringer, this week's Mattress Firm Student of the Week. Well, happy to welcome in from CMR, a senior linebacker there for the Rustlers, Caleb Stringer. He is a senior at CMR, and he is our Mattress Firm Student of the Week. Caleb, thanks so much for being with us. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good.
Well, we're certainly happy to have you on, and congratulations on being the Student of the Week this week. Let's talk about this. You're a senior over there, and you're playing football, and also in the spring you're throwing and doing the shot put and discus on the track team as well. Have you just always been into football, into sports?
Oh, yeah. Since 5th or 6th grade, I've been playing football. And my freshman year, I kind of just got into track. It was an interesting thing, and threw myself at it and had a lot of fun with it and continued with it through high school. And, yeah, football's just always been pretty fun.
And then when it comes to track, is that something to just keep you, on your feet and in shape and something to compete at in the spring as well?
Oh, yeah. Those guys that do track all around the state are super competitive when it comes to throwing shot put and discus. So it's really fun to get out and meet a couple new guys. And it definitely keeps me in shape through the year. It was kind of nice during football season just to have another little exercise at the end of the year, preparing me for the next football season.
with football kind of maybe being the main sport and obviously the one that kind of gets the most attention and more people come out to check it out and stuff like that. But when you got into track on that side of it, did that all of a sudden kind of like carve out a spot for you where like, hey, man, this is cool. I like doing this over here?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like I said, my freshman year, I just decided to throw myself into it. The first day, someone was like, oh, track starts today. And I was like, okay, well, here we go. And so I jumped on it and started doing it. And it's definitely just kind of put a place in my heart for sure. I'll never regret ever doing that.
It's interesting, too, that you do a lot of stuff with construction work, which, by the way, I admire because I got no skills when it comes to anything like that. But this is cool because they're at CMR. It's actually a class where you're going out and helping build houses and stuff like that for folks in need, right?
Yeah. So NeighborWorks puts this house thing on, and it runs all year long, and we kind of just start with our foundation and work our way up from building the house. We'll sheetrock it. We'll do all the interior work. And it's just a super fun class. NeighborWorks sponsors it. Through both schools, Great Falls High and CMR does it. So I have a couple Great Falls High kids in my class, which is really interesting because you don't always get to meet those kids from the other side of the river.
Right. And
it's a really interesting class.
Right. It kind of brings everybody together in that way. And then you also actually took it even a step further and went all the way down to Houston with your youth group, right? And kind of did some of the same stuff down in Texas.
Yeah. So there was what I did. We had like a service day when we went down there. And it was like we handed out books, but there was other kids that had put fences together. They did all kinds of stuff down in Houston. But what I kind of did to volunteer down there was we went into like a low-income area, and we just handed out books to these little kids in this low-income area, and it was really heartwarming for sure.
Caleb Stringer joining us. He's a senior at CMR. He's our Mattress Firm Student of the Week. And as a senior there, Caleb, do you have plans for next year? Do you know what you think you might want to be up to?
Next year, I'm planning on going into the Air Force and doing maybe some structural work with them. Definitely construction. If that always doesn't work out right away, I'm maybe getting into some construction job in Montana, just to keep my time going, get a job, get on my feet, stuff like that.
Absolutely. Well, if it's something that you can do, God bless you, because I'm telling you what, it's a talent, my man, to do it. And if you could go to the Air Force Academy, wow, how great would that be? We wish you certainly the best. A great opportunity. Hey, they run the triple option. You know what I mean? They could use a mobile guy, out there running around a little bit. Who knows?
No, yeah.
Well, Caleb, we certainly appreciate your time with us, man. Best of luck to you for the rest of this year in spring and track and field and then and beyond in whatever you do, okay?
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. That is Caleb Stringer. He's our Mattress Firm Student of the Week from CMR. If you go online, themattressfirmmt.com, you can nominate a Student of the Week as well. You get them all signed up. They could be on this show. They'll do a feature of them on SWX television, and at the end of the year, they'll be nominated. There'll be a vote for the Mattress Firm Student of the entire year, not just the week. The winner, $3,000 from Mattress Firm. So that's pretty good right there. We certainly appreciate Caleb joining us. Coulter, one of our favorite times of the week. This might be the last segment we ever do, depending on how it goes. Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know sports, is going to join us right after this. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back. We'll have a little bit of fun with her, okay? See you just about, how about 3 minutes? Have a little fun after this.
If you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift, think spicy. 'Tis the season for seasoning with gift packs from Alpine Touch. The 4-spice pack includes 4 Big Mountain flavors for just $19.99. Go to alpinetouch.com right now for gifts sure to keep mouths watering year-round. And if you plug in the code ESPN at checkout, you'll get a free bag of Alpine Touch sunflower seeds. From gift packs to gift cards to the Grand Slam package, Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift for anyone on your list. Go to alpinetouch.com right now to order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
You know what's at stake after a car accident? Not only will you have to deal with pushy insurance companies, auto repair shops, endless doctor's appointments, and dozens of unforeseen problems, but also your normal day-to-day life. I'm Coulter here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys, and she knows how hard this can be.
That's right. And with all of that, it can seem tempting to take the quick settlement that the insurance company is offering. But I can tell you from experience that it is not going to be a fair amount. I see it all the time where someone has settled with the insurance company and months later realizes that they still have pain from the accident. And now they're having to pay those bills out of their pocket. I don't want that to happen.
So what should our listeners do, Catherine?
Give us a call and discuss your situation with an attorney. The call is free and we'll gladly talk about your situation with you. If you have a case that we can help with, you will owe us nothing out of pocket. We actually make the insurance company pay for us to help you.
There you have it. Call the Advocates, 406-640-4444, or go online, MontanaAdvocates.com. You deserve the advocates on your side.
Hi there. It's Les Schwab Tires. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment and brakes, shocks, wheels, and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer all that. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep at night, because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more than tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires, doing the right thing since 1950.
On Russell, across from the fairground.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Are you interested in putting solar panels on your roof? You want the latest on Montana's renewable energy policy? The Montana Renewable Energy Association, the leading voice for renewable energy education and advocacy in Montana. From community-based clean energy events to advocating at the Montana legislature, they work to ensure Montana's future, powered by the sun, wind, and earth. Find out more about MREA and join as a member by visiting montanarenewables.org or calling 406-214-9405.
If it matters to Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tootell and Coulter Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on all the social medias. You know, we're into the social media stuff, right? Coulter always twitting and picturing and things, so on and so forth. Anyway, go on there to at 1029 at ESPN on Twitter and Instagram. Okay, get us on that thing. And you can also go at Gus Tootell and at Skyline Sports MT on Twitter. We are at the Southgate Mall. Very happy to be at the Southgate Mall this evening. It's December the 20th. I don't know if you do that, the 20th. You know what that means? 5 days. That's all you got. You come on down here. That's right. Get all of your Christmas shopping done. Sign up. We'll get some free stuff here with us. We're right here by the clocks in the middle of the food court and all that stuff. You got jewelry. I'm looking at jewelry. I'm looking at pretzels. What more could a person need? You know what I mean?
That's,
get it all.
That's what was on my list.
That's the beauty of the mall, right?
Pretzels and jewelry.
And right. Diet Coke.
Diet Coke. All the Diet Coke.
Just put a pretzel on a rope around my neck and just let me
a
be.
ring on a pretzel and bake it.
And then propose. Yeah, sure. That should sound good. Boys and girls, it's time for one of our favorite segments of the week. It's the chick who doesn't know sports. Carolyn, oh boy. Now, I am not usually do I get scared doing this job, but I am terrified right now because we usually do this thing, okay, look behind, not totally live, and it's because you are a loose cannon. No one knows what in the world's going to come, out of your mouth and how this is going to go. And the fact that you are doing this thing live right here in the mall in a family setting now makes me very, very wary. So, I just want you to consider that, but it's time for your segment. And I'm happy that you're here in public. People are already coming up going,
I know. My first fan.
Good.
I do. My ego is once again way out of control.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, okay, Carol.
I know. I'm always walking around with a big swollen head.
All right.
Just
people think my head's It's just
You
what
just got
you're-
a big head.
Well, I mean, I have. Bet you I can't even find the hat. What are they called? The paddle heads.
The paddle heads?
Yes. Yeah, no, my head is not a paddle.
You have to go to
Actually,
XL.
They brought you one that was big enough.
True.
All right, Carolyn, you don't know about sports. Tell us something about sports. What do you got today?
Well, first and foremost, I'm excited to announce that my son Nick's soccer team won their indoor
Wow.
championship last night.
Big deal.
Congratulations, Nick.
Yeah, pretty exciting.
Now, you
Tell him to remember it. Because all my I lost.
They've
So
lost
he
a
might
lot.
never win another.
That's okay. I don't care.
Won one.
He won one.
I think you're going to be singing a different song for the next decade if he doesn't. No.
You know, I love that he's out there playing anything, running
Yes.
around, having team time, get to travel, so it's all good. And now great kids, so couldn't be happy no matter what.
Congratulations to Nick. We're very, very happy about that.
What else you got?
But really, let's get down to the nitty gritty.
Okay.
James Wise,
Number one recruit in the country.
Left Memphis after 3 games.
well, he was fined $11,000, or he had to pay back the $11,000 that was paid for his moving expenses.
Okay.
And then he left. Now he's left the NBA, and he's going to be in the draft.
Left college basketball.
Left college basketball.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes.
See, I don't know.
Okay.
Here's my point.
Yes.
Who's watching out for him? Because here we go again, a 19-year-old getting millions of dollars without college education, and I'm stressed out.
You know, there's a lot of people that don't have anybody to look out for them, and a lot of people that do, that just do what they want to do anyway. And there's a lot of people that don't have millions of dollars. Like, would you rather be a 22-year-old college graduate with a huge amount of debt, like most of us, or a 19-year-old with no debt, millions of dollars, but no degree? Who cares?
I care because I want him to invest. I'm worried. You know how I feel about this.
The thing that I think Chris is that not that these guys don't have anybody there for them, but they have too many.
Well,
everybody
that's
there.
true.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
I mean, he's probably got 200 best friends.
Right.
This exact moment.
Well,
in
I'm
life.
his best friend now too. I forgot to mention. I'm going to be
You're
his
the
money
one looking
manager.
out for
right.
him. Yes.
Actually, that's different. I would actually be looking.
You
But,
would
you
be.
know, I'm a good person. So I think we've talked about this before. I don't like these young kids going right into the NBA.
You know, the thing for me on this, Coulter, seriously, is this is such a farce of the one and done rule. Not that he's making of it, but that it is, and he's showing why.
Right.
He showed up for 3 games, and he's done. He's like, yeah, you know what? Now forget it. No. Memphis, I'm out. I'm just going to go practice now. What is even the point? Other than, you know, the only thing I would say about Wiseman, the one draw for me staying in school is to go ahead and play in the tournament. I mean, Memphis is already like a number 10, 11 team in the nation, and he hasn't even played for them basic. And so with him there, who knows what's going to happen, especially when it is wide open, man. Everybody's losing basketball games top of the high major basketball right now. So I think Memphis has a really good team, and with him would be poised potentially to be one of the teams, in the tournament, and you're giving up that opportunity just from an experiential standpoint, just to say you played in the NCAA, which is to me, I would think would be an awesome thing to be able to do. But he's clearly, locked low, said, you know what, I don't need to. So, okay.
Can't wait. Let him go straight out of high school. The highest percentage of success the NBA has seen guys coming right out of high school plus potential that there is, because you're good enough to go to the NBA when you're going to have so many resources. I possibly will. For every Eddie Curry, Darius Miles, there is a Tyson Chandler, a Kobe Bryant, a Tracy McGrady, a Kevin Garnett on down the line. So I just think that it's basketball. We just think if your son was a prodigious piano player, or a great violin player, or a prodigy as math, they could go work at national bank before they ever got their college degree, and they got offered millions of dollars. Wouldn't want them.
I mean, yes, but I'm going to also point out that college is super fun, and how often do you get to have that experience when you're 18?
I'm just going to point out the NBA is fun. Okay.
Yeah,
So-
but you don't have to pay bills in college.
Well, I mean, you have to worry about
What
the bills
in the
when you sign
world
a
is the
$50
matter with
million
you?
contract.
I'm just saying. you have this opportunity to go to college for free, and you will play in the NBA when you're done. Why not just have some fun, play for a great university, get an education, and then go make millions?
But also, the level of spotlight by go out hard.
Oh, please.
I mean, I'm sure he can, but it's not the same.
Oh, it's better.
In some ways, it's probably better. I don't know, man. It's anyways.
Okay.
Good one though, Carol.
That is a good one.
A big
I like
story
the
in
Wiseman
sports.
story. That's outstanding.
What else you got?
All right. Well, Aaron Hernandez's Netflix documentary is coming out in January.
Have you listened to the podcast?
I haven't listened to the podcast, but I'm intrigued by the story because of the CTE, right? That's the head injury. I did a little research, and they said that Boston University field had the worst case of it in history.
Brain.
Yeah, which I'm curious how much they'll delve into this in the documentary. Obviously, that's a huge part of it. And then this happened with him. Are they testing other NFL players?
Well, it's so hard.
You can't.
Let me tell you something. Our good friend Brian Salone, former Grizzly and former NFL football player, just spent 4 days at Harvard doing full. To say medical eval totally undersells it. I'm talking about 4 days of being hooked up to brain scans, tests, the whole thing. And I think we're going to get him on here to talk about this because this is so interesting. And he was one of, I think he said he was like one of 20 so far, so not very many that have gone in to do this, to basically do an assessment. Now, you're right. I think that they can't test, quote unquote, as such, but they can check for proteins that are representative of it, and also just in general to get, I think a better idea of there's so few samples that I don't think we have a great, it's not like we can take 100 million and put them data together and go, okay, this is the norm, right? And then now we see where aberrations are happening. You can talk about why, every single one of these is unique, but you got to start collecting the data at some point. So I think it is, it's obviously a hugely important thing to get done, and I don't know what else. I don't know how to navigate the rest of it other than this is, and it's not just. I mean, it's not just football guys. Some of our military service folks who've been over and come back and have been in combat have obviously had concussion types of events and things like that have gone on, and various other sports as well. So there's plenty of arenas in which this is valuable and would be valuable, and I hope that that's something that continues to have a lot of progress.
Mike Nugent was here to take your job.
Oh, he was.
He turned to go buy some presents for his children.
You guys would be proud of me. Last Sunday, I was watching CBS this morning or something. And Gronk was on doing a little interview, and he was talking about how he left the NFL and how since he left the NFL, his head it used to be swollen. He showed a picture of himself, probably at the prime of his, right before he retired, and now, and he looks like a different. Well, he doesn't look like a different person, but I mean, he said his head was swollen, and that was part of his reason for leaving the NFL because he was suffering some issues,
right?
Which I thought that was awesome.
Yeah,
that he took himself and his own health into consideration more than the millions of dollars. So, another contender for my favorite football player.
Oh boy, Gronk. I think that first of all, the Boston Globe.
I think Gronk should be your favorite football player, just personally.
Yeah, you guys party boys. The Boston Globe Wondery podcast, Gladiators, the best journalism I have. This Netflix special will be very much along the same lines, but it's a microcosmic example of, like they say in that podcast, Football Inc., and just how being a talented football player can get you accelerated all the way to the top of the world with no consequences. And all of a sudden, this guy commits multiple murders and commits suicide in prison, and it's excruciatingly sad.
Yeah.
But as far as the CTE stuff goes, I just want to know if there's a predisposition to it. In other words, if you play football, I think that there's a certain level of head injury you're going to suffer, and there's a certain level of CTE you're going to incur. People, are they born with a predisposition to have it worse than others? In other words, Aaron Hernandez only played 3 years in the NFL. There's guys that played 15 years in the NFL that don't have as bad a CTE as him. Why? That's what I want to know.
Excellent. Carolyn, do you have anything else
I have one
for
more
us?
thing,
Okay.
and it's controversial.
Great.
Oh, boy.
Michael Vick.
Yeah.
He's still going to be an honorary captain in the Pro Bowl.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think he should not be.
Why?
Did you not see what he did?
Yeah.
So
you're talking about with the dogs.
With the dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He went to prison for it, so.
He went to prison, but I mean, if you read the details on what they were doing to these animals, it's so messed up. I almost swore just then. Oh my
God. Yeah. First of all, good avoidance. Really great filter by you.
Wow.
Listen. Okay. I know people love their animals and love animals in general, and I do, and you should. I've had pets growing up, and I have pets now, and I like all of the pets and all of the dogs. And he should certainly not have done what he does. It was messed up. It is messed up. And he went to jail for it, and he has paid his price to society and then some, and he should be a captain at the Pro Bowl.
Well, I disagree.
Okay. So that's it. We just agree to disagree on this.
I thought, there was a lot of petitions going around. I thought they'd back down, but no, he's there. And he's going to get booed, and I'm going to be one of the booers.
Are you going to the Pro Bowl?
I will
be. Gonna be there?
No, not
Where
even
is
close.
the Pro Bowl being played?
I have no idea.
Is it at Camping World Stadium in Orlando? That's where it was, and then I think they moved it back
it's
to
not in Hawaii anymore?
It
Maybe
was,
is.
and then it wasn't, and I think it actually might
Dude,
be
I
going
have
back.
not actually paid attention to the Pro Bowl since Kevin Falk tore his ACL playing flag football from 17 years ago.
Here's my opinion, just to go back to the content.
Okay.
There are far worse things that humans have done to other humans that have
Like
paid
the NFL?
That have paid far worse of a price than what he paid for what he did. And that is not a justification of what he did at all. All I'm saying is on a scale, I don't know.
Let me ask a
It's out of whack
question.
to me.
Why not Jim McMahon? Why
Jim
was he
McMahon.
that great of a player?
Michael Vick?
Yes.
Oh.
He was
Michael Vick, there was a few athletes turn of the 21st century that just captured the imagination of America for several different reasons, but mostly because of just like cultural symbolism that they represent. And Michael Vick,
and also because we've never seen anybody
They've
ever in
never
the
seen
history of the
anybody
game
like that,
that
right.
could do what he did.
like Allen Iverson and Michael Vick were like two guys. It didn't matter how good they actually were because of who they were and how they carried
Well, it
themselves.
did matter how good they actually were.
That added to it, but just like the bravado and the flash, like how exceptionally explosive they were, while also being not that big. Those two guys
Right.
really led the charge in terms of star athletes in like the post Michael Jordan era.
Michael Vick is the only player in the history of sports that got two separate $100 million. Maybe that doesn't make you happy because you're doing this, but that is remarkable.
It would make me happy if he donated some of that money to the Humane Society.
Well, he's
and-
done actually quite a lot. I don't know if you followed his steps after leaving
a little bit, but
prison.
then every time
Okay.
I saw his name, I wanted to barf, so I stopped. But
I'm happy that he's a captain at the Pro Bowl. He should be. And he should be back in football wherever he wants. Well, he is to a certain extent, but do whatever he wants.
well, I'm voting for Jim McMahon for 2021.
Jim McMahon is great. Let me ask you this, Carolyn. Okay, it's Friday. I think this is the second day of the Star Wars movie being out.
Yeah.
You are planning to go over here to the AMC, which is right here at the Southgate
sure
Mall
am.
next to us, and watch this movie tonight with the family. Are you a
Yes.
big Star Wars gal? You pumped up about this?
I am really excited because my family's so excited, and I was really into the first, the original.
Yes.
Didn't like the second trilogy.
By the original, you mean the original of the new ones or the original like in the 70s?
The 70s,
Okay,
80s.
yes.
Then they came out with some in like the mid 2000s, wasn't into, and then these ones have been super fun because they're a little nostalgic. So pretty excited.
So I don't know anything about Star Wars, the new Star Wars.
You watch Star Wars?
Yeah, I've seen. I saw the original Star Wars. I saw the first new Star Wars with Natalie Portman.
Yeah,
Sure,
no,
like way
those ones
back.
are awful.
Okay, but that's the only one that
Yeah.
I've ever watched of the new one. Because when I watched, I was like, okay, well,
yeah.
I guess
so.
it's
Those
not really
ones,
my
like
deal.
you can just pretend they never happened, and then they came out in like 2010, I think, or 2014, I think was the new ones by J.J. Abrams, and those
Okay.
ones have been super fun.
Okay.
'Cause, like, you
So
got-
this is the third of those, or
Yes.
this is the sixth of those?
It's the third trilogy.
Okay. So it's the 9th
So
of
now
those.
there's like 11 of these.
Don't make me do math. Don't
It's
make
3
me do math.
squared. I think I know
Yeah.
how this
They
works.
have the
Yeah.
But then
extra
they've been
ones,
throwing
too.
some other ones in there, and then there's Mandalorian on Disney Plus. There's a lot happening.
Right, the Mandalorian thing.
But
yeah.
yes, I'm pumped. My kids are pumped.
You
My
just
husband's
can't.
pumped.
They can't let it be though. Now listen, God bless all the Star Wars folks out there. I got a lot of them in my life, and I know that they're pumped up about this. But I mean, it's just such a money grab, man.
I know. It's great.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. Every movie that's been considered for the last 3 or 4 years has been nothing but
Like Avengers and all the Marvel
There's
stuff.
no such thing as a film that actually makes it to the megaplex.
Yeah, well, no, that's not totally true. I think there's been some interesting.
Here's what I
ones.
love about this, and then I'll let you guys go back to sports. My husband got to watch, and we both watched these Star Wars movies when we were kids, like our kids' age. Now our kids are watching them. We get to watch them for fun, and
Yeah,
I
that
just
is
love
fun.
that.
That's
and
a great.
So,
That's the best sale on this whole thing that I've ever heard.
so do it. Go watch it.
Carolyn, you got through it, and you mostly didn't run into any trouble here.
It was close.
It was very close, but we applaud you. You do a great job. Thank you for being here once
Thanks,
again
guys.
on a Friday.
It's always a blast.
Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know sports, joining us on a Friday. Coulter and I at the Southgate Mall here, sitting underneath the clock here in the food court. Come on by, grab yourself some swag. We also get you signed up for a whole bunch of gear that we got to give away from the mall, some grab bag stuff, some electronic stuff. So come on down and hang out with us and check that out. And also listen to Asif Adonai. He's on the piano over here. He's always tickling the ivories. This guy's outstanding. He's actually like one of the great piano players.
Oh, he's
like
awesome.
a virtuoso. So you can come down and listen to him playing the keys as well, and kick it with us for a while and get your Christmas shopping done too. So come on down to the Southgate Mall here. We'll be here till 7 o'clock tonight. Show till 6. But we'll be down here till 7 hanging out with all of you. So come on by and say hello. We'll look forward to that. Hey, if you're a normal human being, you have last-minute shopping to do, and you're freaking out because you're running out of ideas. Well, here's the most simple and best thing. You go get a gift from Shine Auto Detailing. Just that easy. Hunters, sports fans, soccer moms, everyone loves a fresh wide. Go online and get a gift card. You save $25 off of every $100 card online. Something fresh for your spouse. Get them a Shine Auto Detailing gift card. Save $25 and they're delivered instantly. Go to shineautodetailing.net and click gift card. Shineautodetailing.net. Offer expires at midnight on December 24th. Back. Hour number 2 next.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box store. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit 6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up.
Looking for something refreshing but different? Stop by your local Town Pump. They've got the perfect refresher. White Claw, Truly, and Smirnoff Seltzer 12-pack cans, $14.99. And Cook's 1.5 liter, only $10.99. Find all your refreshments at Town Pump, right down the road.
Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
There's a saying, opportunity never knocks twice. When you're ready to take advantage of your next opportunity, look to your local Opportunity Bank of Montana. Opportunity Bank offers options for mortgage loans, small business loans, equipment financing, agriculture, and more. Our experienced team can provide solutions to help you welcome your next big opportunity. There's nothing like the feeling of progress. So let's get started today. Come see us at your local Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Last May, Ten Spoon Winery partnered with the Historical Museum with Hello to Old Missoula, Missoula's History Through Art, an event where attendees voted on their favorite piece of art, which would become the next Ten Spoon wine label. Votes are counted, and Megan Odell's piece depicting the 1990s Roxy Theater fire was the winner. Now you can drink wine for history, as Ten Spoon is dedicating a portion from every bottle of Roxy Fire wine sold to the Historical Museum. Find it now at local retailers or call 406-549-8703.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work? Not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Helmer, Hardcore Law. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Hardcore Law 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit hardcorelaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
KKVU HD3 Stevensville and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening. The Final Four of the FCS playoffs features a pair of Big Sky Conference teams for the first time since 1981. Ryan Tootell, Colter Nuanez, here's some sports news for you. Number 5, Montana State plays at number 1, North Dakota State. And number 3, Weber State travels to number 2, James Madison Saturday. The last time two teams from the league played in the national semifinal came when Idaho State and Boise State made the Final Four 38 years ago. The Bobcats are in the semifinal for the first time since 1984 and are gunning for their first FCS national title that since that magical season 35 years ago. Montana State is 11-3 this year on a 6-game winning streak that has seen the Bobcats allow less than 60 yards rushing 5 times. MSU takes on North Dakota State, a team that is in search of their 8th national title in 9 years.
Weber State, the 3-time defending Big Sky champ, eliminated the Montana Grizzlies last week to advance to the national semifinals for the first time in program history. The ferocious senior defensive end duo of Jonah Williams and Adam Rodriguez are the leaders of a defensive unit, giving up 20 points a game, thanks in part to a pass rush that totaled 44 sacks. The Bobcats take on a James Madison team trying to capture their 3rd national title, including the 2nd.
And finally, the Montana State men's basketball team wrapped up their non-conference schedule last night. It was a 74-72 loss at Cal State Bakersfield. Welcome back. Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Hour number 2. Broadcasting live through the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Colter and I are live on location at the Southgate Mall. Come on down, sign up for some goodies that we have to give away, some grab bags. We got a great Eddie Bauer gift pack here. An awesome set of headphones from Cloud Alpha for the gamer in your world, or maybe just somebody who loves music, want to hear yourself well. You can also get some GNC, some whey protein and stuff. So come on down, sign up for that stuff. We got some free swag to give away as well, some koozies, some coffee, all kinds of stuff for you. If you missed anything in the first hour, check it out on the podcast. The podcast available on the internet. Yes, that's where you get them. But anywhere you get your podcast. Yeah, sometimes I get so excited and I forget everybody knows about it. The true joy. I remember.
Imagine if you didn't.
I remember the first time I saw somebody typing and they were having a conversation in a chat room. Do you remember chat rooms?
Oh, buddy.
And
I was a horrible person in chat room.
Now, why you do? Why you do?
I just used to pretend to be other people.
No, don't. Fun. So all I'm saying is that she was. And then all of a sudden a line would appear underneath her line. I was like, it was my friend Naomi. I said, who are you talking to? She's like, somebody in Australia. I was like, get out of here. Australia? We're talking around the world in real time. Who is it? She's like, I don't know. I just met him. On this thing? It's a miracle. So anyway, the podcast now available on the internet. Wherever you get your podcast, you can get the Tootell Nuanez podcast. And it is available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. All guests join us via the Rangage Brothers RV phone line. We will have Kyle Emanuel coming up here in about 20 minutes from now. He was a former North Dakota State linebacker. He won the Buck Buchanan Award. He also went to the NFL as a 5th-round draft pick of the San Diego Chargers, and he now works on the broadcast for NDSU. So he's going to talk to us about just the juggernaut that is the North Dakota State Bison and the matchup tomorrow, which we're going to get into here in a moment. Also, if you'd like to listen live, you go on the internet. Everything's on the internet. Colter1029ESPN.com. You listen live there on the stream. The stream is available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. Colter, we talked about this cat Bison game off the top. I want to talk a little bit, just briefly, and we'll get back to the Cat Bison game, but about the Weber State-James Madison game. We talked with Sam Herder yesterday, and he really kind of swayed me on this, but everybody's looking at this Montana State, North Dakota State game and saying, Montana State, they have a better look than maybe a lot of people are thinking on this, or maybe at least a better look than people have had in the past. Nobody is, for the most part, picking them to win straight up, but I think they expect this to be at least something of a competitive game. I certainly do. The thing that people aren't really talking about, and you probably shouldn't look past North Dakota State, but if Montana State was to win this game, I think it's overwhelmingly likely that they'll be playing James Madison. And James Madison is better than North Dakota State. Well, I think there's a real possibility that they are. And if it turned out to be the Dukes and the Bison in the national championship, I will pick James Madison to win the football game, barring any injury stuff coming out of these games tomorrow. But just James Madison team is unbelievable. And Weber State, hats off to them. They got the punt block they needed to have. They had a great scheme defensively against the Grizzlies in the quarterfinal, and they went to the semifinals for the first time in their program history. And it's another step and another stamp for Jay Hill and his Weber State program. It's a really good football team. James Madison is next level good. They're next level good. And in the history of the FCS, you always stamp North Dakota State, and you sit there and you go, they're on a tier by themselves, and then it's James Madison on a tier by themselves. But actually, this very season and these two teams, there is not that separation. These two teams are on the same tier together, apart from everybody else, and I expect James Madison to win this thing. I know you expect the same thing.
I'm just going to be so much interested to see if Weber State has any gas left in the tank, because Weber State, it was by no means a resounding win over Kennesaw State second round. And last week, they had to pull out all the stops in the quarterfinals against the Montana Grizzlies. They did literally nothing on offense.
Right.
They're so banged up on offense. Devin Cooley has not looked healthy since the Montana game. Josh Davis has not been healthy, and he took another shot last week.
He got ripped. Yeah, he did.
Rashid Shaheed has not played since the first quarter of that Montana game. And
this is not the team to play against less than 100%.
I mean, Jay Constantine needs to prove that he can play in big games, regardless of what his health status is. But Weber State, their defense, I thought Adam Rodriguez looked healthy for the first time in a long time, and that really does upgrade their defense. It gives them the speed rusher they need on the opposite side of Jonah Williams. But that Weber State secondary, it still remains pretty young as well. And James Madison, like you said, Gus, they got athletes all over the place. They got drop downs at all the skill positions. They have multiple all-league and all-American caliber guys at receiver, at running back, at quarterback, at defensive end. They have just a bunch of dudes. And so I don't know. Weber State's going to have to completely have a resurgence and not be satisfied with where they've already advanced to. But I just think that's a tall task. I think when you've already had the greatest season in your program's history, it's hard to find extra juice, especially when you got to go across the country, Harrisonburg, Virginia, and they were traveling around checking out the nation's capital today. And I think all that stuff is good, but sometimes it can be a distraction too. And so we'll see where they're at. But I agree. I mean, I think the spread, 2.5 scores is just about right.
Well, here's the thing. I tend to agree with you on that, but I don't think that them, the touring around the nation's capital and doing the whole thing, I don't think that's that big a deal. To me, I just think James Madison's better. Like, I mean, you come out and you can kind of take your best shot if you're Weber State, and I think it's overblown a lot of times when you talk about playing with house money. I think Weber State wanted and sort of needed to be in this football game. They're obviously an overwhelming underdog, and I don't think they should have a ton of pressure on them, but there's still pressure playing in a national semifinal. You know what I mean? I think that's a big deal, and I think they'll feel some of that. But nonetheless, that shouldn't stop them from playing loose and free. And I expect them to play, for whoever's available, a good football game. I think they're going to have good moments on defense and create a turnover or two in this football game. I just think that James Madison is just better stem to stern. There's a couple individual players, on Weber State, obviously on that defensive line, that are probably better straight up than the guys that they're going against, and maybe the guys who share their opposite number on defense as well. But by and large, I mean, you talk both sides of the ball, James Madison's just a better football team. in total than is Weber State, and I expect them to win this football game.
Did you think that Weber State was better than Montana?
No.
That's the brilliance of Weber State.
Yeah.
You never think they're better than not you. Just
totally.
Period.
Just in general. Yeah, you're
it's
right.
because they're so unspectacular. But there's only one coach that I've seen this season that straight up wins. Jay Hill wins the game for you.
Yeah.
I think that their lack of care about playing utterly ugly with zero flash, it's almost North Dakota State-esque, honestly. They don't have the pizzazz. They never blow people out. They never score 50 points unless it's against Northern Arizona. Doesn't come out of the locker room after halftime and gives up 300-plus yards rushing for one guy. But I think that almost always you feel like the Weber State victory was underwhelming. But then you go up and count them up, and they've won 30-plus games in the last 3 years.
Well, here's the thing, though, on is I mean, you asked me if I thought Weber State was better than Montana. I still don't think Weber State's better than Montana, just straight up. I think Montana's a better football team than what Weber State is, but I think it's close. Like, Weber State's a really good football team, and the fact that they won in a one-and-done situation, especially at home and in the snow and everything the way that they did it, that doesn't shock me in the least bit that they did do it. But if you're talking about this week, I think Montana gives James Madison a much better look than what Weber State gives. I think Montana has the capability of getting on a roll and having some explosive plays offensively that I don't think Weber State has, and I think there's a little bit more give and take with Montana in terms of they can give it up a little bit defensively from a points total type of standpoint in the right type of game, and I think James Madison certainly score it. But I think Montana would have a better look for James Madison than what Weber State will in this particular instance. Especially, again, I do think it matters about the guys who are not going to be there or who are not going to be 100%, even though they are there for Weber State. I think that's a big deal. And James Madison, by and large, a very healthy team. Why do I know this? Because I host the FCS Speculators Betting Podcast. Go listen to it. You'll know all this stuff as well with Coulter and I. But I think that's a big deal, man.
I also think that the trip to Harrisburg is not only but I mean, Bridgeforth Stadium is one of the great venues in the FCS.
It's great.
I mean, two biggest stadiums in the FCS are Washington Grizzly Stadium and Bridgeforth Stadium. So the venue that Weber State's going to have to endure is also.
Yeah, no doubt. Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Coulter and I are live on location at the Southgate Mall. It's December the 20th, people. You got to get some shopping done. Come on down. You can get dinner here. You get all your gifts knocked out here. It's actually very pleasant, man. There's a decent amount of people here. People think, though, holiday shopping and it's just gridlock in your room. This is perfect, man. Come on down, see some people, say hi to us, and get what you need. Get out of there. I know there's a huge sale going on. Eddie Bauer's running like 50% off Eddie Bauer stuff sale right now, so you can go check that out. And we're giving a bunch of stuff away, so you can come on over, sign up for us. We're right here by the clock. You know where the clock is, right here in the middle of the mall. Come on down and hang out with us for a little while as we wrap things up. Not yet, but we're rolling a Friday show before Christmas. Also, want to let people know, just from a scheduling standpoint, next week, Coulter and I were going to be off the whole week. We're going to be off the whole week, take Christmas, and have a vacation. But with Montana State making it into the national semifinal, we thought, you know what, forget that. We got to do the show on Monday. We got to be here, do a Montana football hour, talk about the Cat NDSU game and the Weber State James Madison game for that matter. So we will be on the air Monday with you from 4 to 6, and then Tuesday through Friday we're out. Okay, enjoy your Christmas break, holiday, and all that. So I want to let you know we'll be here for you on Monday, and then out the rest of the week after that. So there's your public service announcement. Coulter, a couple of final thoughts here for the Montana State and NDSU game. We will get to Kyle Emanuel here in just about 10 minutes or so from right now, former North Dakota State linebacker. But what is one thing that you think about this football game that maybe hasn't been talked about a lot that you think could be a factor and something that you think is worth looking at it?
Well, one thought that I don't think has been talked about enough is we talked about how good NDSU is at home. We've also not talked about, we talked all about the dynasty, all the factors that have gone into the NDS dynasty. How about the fact of the matter that they have been a 1 or 2 in the FCS playoffs every year during the run? They don't have to leave Fargo. They actually have never left. They have not played a road playoff game in 2000. And so we're not going to get to find out how good they are away from Fargo until they go to Frisco, a.k.a. Fargo South. But I just think that's one thing worth stating, like, not to take away from Frisco State.
But
dynasty,
when you're playing at home all the time, it's kind of a good deal for you.
And they have the formula. And so, I mean, their style, everything that they do is set up, play in that dome. And when they get to play in that dome, they're unbeatable in that dome. I think that is definitely an underrated factor. I think the other thing is I want to share a quote. Brooks, my brother Brooks Nuanez, he interviewed Derek Marks right after he had Derek Marks on the radio show. And he asked a couple kind of follow-up questions about NDSU physicality. And, you know, is it for real? And I thought Marks, his analysis was pretty good. He's like, people think when you talk about physicality, you talk about hard hit, smack. He said that's not where NDSU is so overwhelmingly physical. It's how fast they get off the ball. He said it's not that the linemen are hitting you so hard that you're falling over. They're just beating you to a spot and then just driving you off the field. And I thought that was an interesting analysis. So you think of physicality like the Moses Mallory's mauling from the offensive guard position, but it's the athleticism of the linemen that's the biggest part. And you know, I think that's the main factor. It's so easy to look at freshman quarterback and a backfield that's by committee that does not have the elite talent, and not a game breaker like Darius Shepard on the outside, not a 4-year starter, a quarterback like you don't have the multiple-time All-Americans like Greg Bernard and Nick Luca and Kyle Emanuel, who are here from a little bit. But the fact of the matter is, they still have 3 first-team All-American offensive linemen.
Totally.
And when your 3 best players play left tackle, left guard, and right guard, you got a chance against anybody.
There's no doubt about it. And when you talk about one thing I think that is worth, I don't know, taking into consideration when you're talking about, you know, maybe an X factor or something like that in this game. People talk about special teams, of course, all the time, right? Who's the, you know, what's the special team situation and all that. But I think for Montana State, when you talk about the game and in particular place kicking, they got a kid who can bang it, man. And how many teams in the FCS have a dome to play games in? I mean, almost none, right? I mean, it's Fargo, and it's, I mean, there's a handful of them, right, in the Idaho schools and the North Dakota schools, but by and large, there's not the following or the you know, the infrastructure or the money to build an go out there and try and play a football game. And I think if you can kick, you know, a 50-yard field goal or feel like you have a shot at it, there's a lot of confidence that's built that, you know, you're in a controlled setting, a controlled environment. You're not going to deal with wind, rain, that kind of factor and stuff. And, you know, in a 9-3 football game that it was last week for North Dakota State, that if Montana State is going to win this football game, they got to get everything right, and it's going to be probably a close game, and there's probably going to have to be a kick or two that is made, and maybe some long ones.
Certainly. So interesting the way that a kicker's mentality evolves. Tristan Bailey has been so good at times for Montana State. He's also been so sporadic at times. For whatever reason, the last month, he's got this new glitch.
Yep.
Can't make it to the right hash. The ball's in the middle of the field to the left hash. He's funny. But last week he missed 2 field goals from the right hash. And it was actually one of Montana State's stat keepers that pointed it out. He said, "Oh no, we're on the right hash. This is going to be wide right." And then it was. And then it was. And it's like it's an operation. We talked in the top or the first hour. One of the things that Montana State needs to have go right, I think that not just the trick plays and the risk that they're probably going to take, but also can never lead. Can't have a sustained drive that then get to the 25-yard line and line up for a 40-yard field goal. You just can't. And this will be the last game for the specialists for Montana State, both Jared Padmas and Tristan Bailey. So they're going to have to play their best in the Fargo.
I guess my point on Tristan Bailey is just this, because you're right. He hasn't. He made like 10 of his last 11 and 9 straight to finish the year last year, and was an all-conference type of player. You go, wow, he was a sophomore. You got a locked up. And he hasn't been as consistent this year, no doubt. But he is a guy who can bang it, and he's got to make every kick that he takes. He just has to. But also, there's a lot of teams who don't even have a kicker where you'd be punting if you had a drive stop at the 39-yard line. That's it. For Montana State, it's a real consideration, and one that I think Jeff Choate, will have to think long and hard about, because he's got a guy who can not just on his best day can get it there. He can easily get it there for 50. Will it be through the uprights? That's an open question, but I think being in the dome is a positive in that respect, at least for him. Whether that matters at the end of the day or not, we'll find out. Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Coulter, we'll have Kyle Emanuel coming up right after this. He's going to join us, former North Dakota State linebacker, won the Buck Buchanan Award, also was a fifth-round draft pick in the National Football League. Perhaps you've heard of that. So we will get to him right after this. It's the holidays, Coulter. We're at the Southgate Mall hanging out, people buying presents. Maybe you got family flying in over the weekend. You need a place to put them. Maybe you need a place to put yourself. Go to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. That's the place you need to go. You got a full breakfast in the morning. You got a pool with slides on it for the kids to play on. A great spot that's in great proximity both to the airport and to I-90. It's a quick trot to downtown if you're looking for something. It's an awesome spot, and they're going to take care of you and yours this holiday.
Need a place to get away from the relatives? Maybe you go stay at the Wyndham. Or you can ask the relatives out there as well. If you're in town, in the Missoula area, you need a place for a business meeting. I know everybody's making their 2020 plans. When we come back from the break, you got great business space, whether you need space for 2 or 200. Any and every time you stay there, you're going to get a delicious breakfast. One of the best parts about it. Don't be deterred by the fact that it's on Airway Boulevard. Easy access to the freeway, easy access to anywhere in Missoula. Let the Wingate by Wyndham make you feel at home.
Kyle Emanuel, right after this.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process, so you can just focus on it better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call. 406-640-4444. Online at MontanaAdvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
Hi there. It's Flash Schwab Tire. Well, more like Flash Schwab alignment, brakes, shocks, wheels, and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they see because all those services affect things like steering and stopping. That's why we offer more tires to help keep you safe. Stop by or book an appointment at FlashSchwab.com. Flash Schwab Tire. Doing the right thing.
On Russell, across from the fairground.
Hey, Coulter Nuanez from Tootell, Nuanez. Need a great place for a Christmas gift? I got a spot for you. Aspen Sound in Missoula. They got all the hookups for everything you could possibly need for your vehicles. What are some of the sweet things you got going on down there, Tom?
Thanks, Coulter. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto have sure been popular this year for safety and convenience. You can do text messaging, maps, pretty much everything you need, phone calls, music, everything right from the touch of your radio. We also have remote car starters, as you know, and window tint. Lots of goodies at a great price. Come on down and see us.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Bethel Community Church offers a free clothes closet that is open to the public each Tuesday. There are literally thousands of new and gently used items for the entire family in virtually all sizes. There's a good selection of cold weather clothing as well as casual, dress, and professional clothing, shoes, coats,
excited to take whatever they need. Call Bethel Community Church for more information, 721-2780, or visit www.bethelmissoula.com. Good evening, Ryan Tootell, Colton Nuanez, ESPN Sports Center. The Final Four of the FCS playoffs features a pair of Big Sky Conference teams for the first time since 1981. Number 5 Montana State plays at number 1 North Dakota State, and number 3 Weber State travels to number 2 James Madison Saturday. The last time two teams in the league played in the national semifinal came when Idaho State and Boise State both made the Final Four. Are you ready? 38 years ago.
Bobcats into the semifinals for the first time in 1984. They're gunning for the first FCS national title since that magical run 35 seasons ago. Montana State 11-3 on a 6-game winning streak. The Bobcats allow less than 50 yards rushing 5 times. MSU takes on a North Dakota State for 8 national titles.
Weber State, the 3-time defending Big Sky champions, eliminated the Montana Grizzlies last week to advance to the national semifinal for the first time in program history. The ferocious senior defensive end duo of Jonah Williams and Adam Rodriguez are the leaders of the defensive unit. Gave up 20 points per game this season, thanks in part to a pass rush that has gotten 44 sacks. Impressive stuff. The Wildcats take on James Madison, trying to capture their 3rd national title and their 2nd since 2016.
And finally, Montana State's men's basketball team wrapped up its non-conference schedule with a 74-70 loss at Cal State Bakersfield.
By the window. When you've won 8 out of the last 9 national championships, probably got some dudes that were pretty good at football. Our next guest is certainly one of those. Kyle Emanuel, former linebacker, Buck Buchanan Award winner, and NFL linebacker for several seasons in San Diego Chargers. It is Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. We are broadcasting through the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and also online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web as well, 1029ESPN.com. Go check us out there. You can also go ahead and check out the podcast. Podcast available wherever you get your podcasts, including the FCS Speculators podcast, which is out right now. The FCS Speculators podcast gets you ready for the national semifinals tomorrow. Okay, so go listen to that podcast and get all the information that you need. Time now for an interview with Kyle Emanuel. He's an outstanding North Dakota State football player and now does analyst work on the post-game show for the Bison. So we were able to talk with him earlier on today. Certainly a guy who knows a lot about it. Let's hear his interview, and then we'll talk a little bit about it on the backside. Here you go, Kyle Emanuel. Well, we go now to the Raggich Brothers RV phone line, and we welcome in a former North Dakota State linebacker, Buck Buchanan Award winner, and a former NFL linebacker, Kyle Emanuel. Kyle, thanks so much for being with us. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Outstanding.
You surviving the weather? It's pretty cold here.
You know, we're making it happen. We don't have the dome over here, so it's okay, but it's in Fargo, so it's just as well. You know what I mean? You make it happen from the bus to the barn, you know?
Absolutely.
It's obviously a big matchup tomorrow with NDSU and Montana State again. North Dakota State perennially in this spot, which they're very comfortable with at home and all that. But when you were playing and Craig Bull recruited you, it was right on the front end of what became this, never seen before domination of a program. What was it that drew you to North Dakota State in the first place?
I kind of like telling people this story just because everyone sees North Dakota State and what we've done now and assumes that was an easy decision to choose NDSU. I grew up in Nebraska, obviously wanted to play at Nebraska. North Dakota State was 3-8 the year I was a senior in high school. I came up to a game. It was actually the last game of the year. So they're 3-7. The dome was half full, maybe a little over. Hunting was going on. There wasn't a lot happening, and the team was losing, but to me, I was able to see through all that and saw, at its core, a program with a rich history, a program or a community where football really mattered. And that's kind of what I wanted. Like I said, growing up in Nebraska where football is everything, I wanted something at least somewhat on that scale. And you kind of just tell, I don't know, there's just kind of this feeling that 3-8 was not going to be the standard around here, and things are going to get turned around. So, yeah, I came here, and the rest is history, as they say.
You said you could kind of see through it, the kind of losing season and not a full stadium and all that. What was it, though, that specifically that you saw? Like, what was the thing or things where you're like, okay, yeah, I get it now?
It's one of those things almost harder to put into words. It's almost something you have to feel, and that's kind of the way I describe culture. Sometimes it's hard to describe a place's culture. You can put all the words you want to it, but until you kind of walk into the building and get a sense for what it's like, it's really hard to describe it. It's almost a feeling, but there's just a history, a tradition. You look back, at that time they had 8 Division II national championships, maybe 6 Division II, and 2 other national championships. You could just still get a sense driving around the town, and like I said, football mattered here. So that was important to me, and I didn't think 3-8 was going to turn into this many national championships, but I just winning football games was important to me. But I wanted to go somewhere where it mattered, and I could just tell that that's what this place was going to bring.
So interesting to the retrospect of this whole thing, like you said, because I remember when in Craig Bull's first season back in 2003, North Dakota State was still Division II. They came to Missoula, Montana, and they beat Montana, and it was a huge upset. But it also, I remember watching that game and thinking, these guys don't look that much like a D2 team. They look like they could compete in the Big Sky. But then when the transition went up to Division I, playing in the Great West, North Dakota State was good, but not necessarily what you guys became. And you mentioned that 3-8 year, but then the next year when you were redshirting, punch through, get into the playoffs, and then go on a little bit of a playoff run. And then since then, it's basically just been no losing at North Dakota State. But it's interesting, though, that was Craig Bull's 8th and 9th seasons. So what changed? I mean, what did Coach Bull, how was he able to sort of hit the gas pedal and accelerate you guys after being there for a substantial period of time already?
Yeah, it's hard for me to know what it was like before I got here, but I know, as soon as I got here, this culture, you hear the word culture thrown out a lot. I think everyone talks about but a culture, a standard was really developed. I know, before I got here, I think there was even some discipline things going on, guys getting in trouble a little bit. I think he really he just took the reins of this program and said, all right, this is what I know to be successful. He obviously has Nebraska ties and things that Tom Osborne did. I think he implemented into this program. So again, it's hard to say exactly what changed from his first 7 or 8 years to now, but I have to give a lot of credit to Coach Kramer, and he's a guy that if you're around Fargo, his name. He's our strength coach. NDSU doesn't always get, well, maybe now they do, but it's not always necessarily the best players that we bring in. It's the fact that I feel like North Dakota State knows what to do with them when they get them, and he's a big part of that. I think developing players has been one of the many keys to this run, and continues to be one of the keys.
Former North Dakota State linebacker, Buck Buchanan Award winner, and former NFL linebacker Kyle Emanuel joining us.
I've been covering the FCS for close to 15 years now, and this rise of North Dakota State, all the factors have been so interesting to me. We've always talked about the culture, and like you said, they run at such a high level at the Division II level, and just the way that Fargo and the Fargo-Moorhead area has grown, the way North Dakota State's been able to maximize recruiting in Minneapolis. But we talked to the play-by-play guy the other day, and he was talking about Jim Kramer as well, and that was kind of the light that went off in my head. The same strength coach, because that's where you can develop so much of the culture. What were the workouts like at North Dakota State, and how much did that just drive you guys forward in terms of just internal competition?
They were brutal. I guess that's the best word I can use. They were brutal. They were hard. Again, I've only been at NDSU and obviously with the Chargers in the NFL in high school, but when I compare, NDSU was nothing like I've ever been a part of, in the fact that Jim Kramer held everyone accountable in every single way, whether it was being a minute late, whether it was missing a rep, not running through a line. He held everyone accountable. And at the time, you're thinking, all right, I just have this really mean, angry strength coach. You didn't really understand the reasoning behind it. But the older you get, that you realize that became a part of our culture, doing the little things right. And because I always tell people, if you're going to pull up short in a conditioning drill in the summer, you might let a guy down in the field and coming up short during a play or something like that. So it all ties together. So those workouts are really, I think, where you form that culture, you form that accountability from peer to peer, and it carries over onto the football field.
What was it like? I think a lot of people, after you guys go on that unbelievable run, and people think, okay, the 3 in a row, incredible, and Craig Bull now leaves for Wyoming, and people went, wow, that was a heck of a deal, and now got to reset with Chris Kleiman, and you have an opportunity for maybe the rest of the country to close the gap a little bit, but Coach Kleiman comes in, and everybody just keeps on rolling, and so, okay, we got the strength coach kind of, identified, but what else is going on where you could go now into a third consecutive coach and quarterback and the whole thing from, Carson Wentz to Stick and now to Lance. So where how does that go?
I guess for me personally, coming from those 3 national championships and everyone kind of doubting, we lost a bunch of seniors, we lost our coaches, everyone kind of thought the dynasty was over. So I think for me in my senior class, especially, we wanted to go out on top. So that was definitely a motivating factor for us. And, obviously I was able to have my best year of my career, my senior year, but Coach Kleiman came in and, he was a D coordinator and he knew what was important. I feel like when you look on the field, we've already talked about off the field, but you look on the field and what NDSU does, and it's kind of simple and it's boring, but you run the football, you try to control the clock and time of possession, and you play really good defense. I think in kind of an era of football when teams are going away from that a little bit, when you see the more up-tempo, you see the spread offenses, when you can kind of maintain that sort of standard along with everything else we have going on, that's gonna set you up in every way to at least be in a game, right? You have a chance. You're not going to see North Dakota State usually get blown out because of that formula. So you stay around, you hang around regardless, and you're going to give yourself a chance to win. And I think that's the way I would identify why we've been successful on the field.
Well, that brings us then to this matchup on Saturday against Montana State, and you got a Montana State team that's rushing for about 280 yards a game. They're giving up about 60 yards a game on the ground over their last 8. And North Dakota State, they're rushing for about 300 yards a game, and they're always giving up about 60 yards a game on the ground, although it has been a little more this year, but similar styles. So what do our analysts have for us? What do you think is going to happen on Saturday? What do you think of this matchup between the Bobcats and the Bison?
I think it's a very interesting one, especially if you look at, obviously NDSU's undefeated, but if you look at the last 3 games or even the last 5 games, Montana State, by the numbers, is playing better than NDSU. Now, I think if I've said it all year long, if you do look at NDSU, they don't have a ton of weaknesses. We all know that. But if there is one, it's giving up yards on the ground. And then there has been times where, this offense is so good. It's so dynamic with Trey Lance at quarterback. But there has been some games like we saw, last week with Illinois State. They struggle a little bit. But the thing is, this defense, other than, I think maybe 2 or 3 games, and those were usually in garbage time, I don't think they've given up over 20 points. And so you look at NDSU's formula, like I just talked about, if the offense can somehow get to 20, I feel like they have a good chance. Now, I do believe Montana State will move the ball a little bit. Obviously, you guys know all about, the Wildcat and the different formations they're going to throw out, different guys running the ball, kind of similar to NDSU, because you're going to see a lot of guys in the backfield for North Dakota State. So I expect, honestly, kind of similar to Illinois State, just a little bit more scoring. I think it's going to be a slugfest. It's going to be a battle of 2 good defenses. I do think Trey Lance gets going a little bit more through the air. We've kind of seen him struggle, or I guess just the passing offense in general, struggle a little bit more than we saw in the regular season. So I think it's going to be a fun one. I really do. And it's going to come down to, me as an old defense guy. I think it's going to come down to the defenses and who can contain the other offense.
Well, Kyle, we really appreciate it. Appreciate the window into the program, and looking forward to the game tomorrow. And thanks for breaking that down for us as well and being with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. Enjoy the game.
Oh, we certainly will. Kyle Emanuel joining us. Appreciate him and his perspective, his thoughts on all of that. Certainly a guy who would know a thing or two. And Coulter, it's so interesting, right? 3-8 they were the year that he's coming out of high school, and he goes, no, I know that this thing is building into something special. And he was absolutely right. And the first time he steps onto the field, he never loses again, or at least never loses a national championship.
Yeah, and one part that I never connected the dots on was that Craig Bull I knew he was the defensive coordinator at Nebraska, but I did not know that he was in before he was the DC. was the linebackers coach on Tom Osborne's staff in the mid-1990s on those great black shirt defenses, multiple national championships. I knew he had the Nebraska ties. When Kyle Emanuel mentioned the Tom Osborne ties, I went and looked back, and yes, he was at Nebraska as a linebackers coach from, I think, 1994 through 1998. So he was with Tom Osborne in some capacity. And that's a pretty good guy to learn a winning tradition from.
No doubt.
But also, I think that Kyle Emanuel talked a lot about culture and North Dakota State's culture. And I think that most head coaches have an idea, at least, of what they want their culture to be. And they go after it. But sometimes you just have to have the right group of guys that believe that it's true. We talked to a former Grizz basketball player the other day for a project we're working on that we're going to roll out after the new year. We were talking about Wayne Tinkle's first couple of years at the Dome. And Wayne Tinkle went to 3 NCAA tournaments in 4 years to end his stint at Montana. But the Grizz were pretty middle of the road Wayne Tinkle's first couple seasons. And the guys that he had on his team just weren't really buying what he was selling.
Right.
And then he got a bunch of guys that were buying what he was selling, and they went to the big dance.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what it takes. And it seemed like Craig Bull, it took him a little while to find the sweet spot. When he led North Dakota State from D2 to D1 into the Great West, then when the Missouri Valley was created, I think it took him a couple years to find the sweet spot. But once he found the sweet spot, off and running, they never looked back.
No doubt. It's Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you on a Friday evening. Coulter and I here at the Southgate Mall. As you can still come out by. This place is open till 9 tonight, so get your last-minute shopping done. And we're going to be here another hour after the show is over. So come on over, hang out with us. We still got plenty of stuff to sign up for. We're going to be giving away after the show is over, so you can come down. Sign up for some Eddie Bauer stuff, some sweet electronics, a nice set of headphones here, some GNC stuff as well. Come on by and say hello. We'll take a quick break. On the other side, we'll wrap this thing up. The bowl season has begun. Coulter's in a great mood right after this.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box store. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit 6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
At Florence Coffee Company, it's time to treat yourself with one of our limited-time holiday favorites. Taste the cookies in the kitchen with our gingerbread man latte, or tap into our creamy maple brulee. You can always rely on our classic eggnog, or pep up with our peppermint meltoy. Hot, blended, or even iced, our limited-time holiday favorites are here through December only. Come to any Florence Coffee location or go to florencecoffeeco.com.
Have you been in an accident and have no idea what to do? I'm here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys.
Unfortunately, people are injured in accidents every day, and dealing with the insurance company can add even more pain to an already bad situation. That is where hiring the advocates can help. Let us guide you through the process and take on the hassles for you so you can just focus on your life.
If you've been injured in an accident, give the Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. The Advocates are on your side.
The biggest season in sports is shifting into overdrive, and the Desperado Sports Tavern has the fuel you need to make it to the finish line. By now, you've heard that the Despo serves the best wings around, but did you know they have a full menu with burgers, nachos, chicken strips, sandwiches, cheese sticks, and even steaks? Fill your tank, then wash it down with an ice-cold beverage or two. Keep your head in the game with 32 HD TVs and room for the whole crew. The Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
This is Tom Skerritt for the Portland. Each year, nearly 2 million children die from preventable diseases. Each day, 30,000 people die from hunger. 500 each hour for children. The Borgen Project is turning this around. We need your help. To learn more, go to BorgenProject.org. The BORGEN project.org. Tootell.
Heading into a Christmas weekend, and bowl season is here. It is Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana, statewide. Outstanding to be with you on this Friday evening as Coulter and I live on location at the Southgate Mall. Come on over. We're right by the clock tower in the mall near the food court here. Get yourself a little something to eat, maybe a treat of some sort, and get your Christmas shopping knocked out. You can even sign up for some free gifts here at the table with us. We are also broadcasting live through the ESPN studios, and that is the Kurt Polaris studio. Kurt Polaris is at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you miss anything in the show today, check it out on the podcast. Great interview we just had with Kyle Emanuel, among other things. Podcast available wherever you get your podcasts, mostly on the internet, if I understand it correctly. The podcast is available thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. And Coulter,
how about when Kyle Emanuel said that the workouts in North Dakota are way harder?
Well, specifically the workouts at San Diego. Maybe it's different other places, you know? I mean, hey, shout out Sean Rainey, by the way, on that whole deal. We got, I mentioned here, a bunch of prizes to sign up for here. A great set of electronics, some Cloud Alpha headphones, an Eddie Bauer gift pack, and some PNC stuff. And we got a gentleman signing up right now with a Packer hat on. That's a guaranteed victory right there. That's a guaranteed dub.
Get it right.
Coulter and I are going to talk on Monday with everybody about the Packer-Viking game, so you can get into that. But when it comes to this weekend in the NFL, we talked about some of tomorrow's games yesterday. And what we do want to talk about, though, is the Seattle-Arizona game in particular, because we will have the Seahawks game for you on ESPN Radio. The noon pregame show will start, and then they kick off at 2 o'clock from CenturyLink against Arizona. Coulter, the Seattle Seahawks, a 9.5-point favorite in that football game. But here's what I want to know, because it's interesting, this sort of parallel here, briefly, is the fact that the Seattle Seahawks play on Sunday. The Niners, who they're obviously in dead-even battle with, both at 11-3, play tomorrow against the Rams. So Seattle is going to know what San Francisco did. They're going to know the result as far as that goes. But obviously they're going to have one less day that San Francisco is going to get because they're going to play each other in Week 17. First of all, Seattle, Arizona, Seattle a 9.5-point favorite. Who do you like in that game?
Well, I think the Cardinals have a chance to cover.
The Cardinals have improved throughout this year. I think that's the best thing I can say about the job that Cliff Kingsbury has done, is this team has gotten better throughout the course of the year, it seems to me. And I think they're better than what people think, certainly better than they were at the start of the year. Obviously, you start to get your rookie quarterback some reps under center, and that helps as well, right?
Well, I mean, you never know when the Cardinals are going to go off. They scored in the 30s 6 times, 7 times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anytime you score in the 30s, you're probably not going to get beat by 10 when you score 30. You know
Totally.
what I mean? And so even if they do lose the game and it's a back and forth, and the Cardinals aren't very good on it, you just never know when their offense will look.
Right, totally. I think it's an interesting, and the reason I brought that up, the Montana State Bobcats played Friday night. North Dakota State played noon on Saturday. Montana State had not a full day, but like 16 extra hours rest on one hand, but especially in a super hectic week where you're trying to get recruits and get all that stuff done, I think that extra time is somewhat big. In the NFL, it's obviously a little different. You don't have that side of things to worry about, but you do get an extra day of rest if you're San Francisco, which is good. But you also, I don't know if it matters psychologically. If San Francisco was to lose, I think it would matter for Seattle going into that game against Arizona. But they know San Francisco is only one of the people that one of the teams they got to go against. They also have to go against right now Green Bay and New Orleans, who are also all 11-3. So it's a real horse race in the NFC right now. Let's Coulter go over, though, can we, for just a moment, and get into some doggone bowl football. The bowl season started off, and Coulter, Charlotte, we had Coach Healy on. He didn't fare so well today in the Birmingham Bowl that opened things up. They lost to Buffalo. I don't know what the final was. It was 24-9 at some point, or 24-7. Anyway, Buffalo gets the win. But right now, in the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl, Coulter, 7-7, Utah State, Kent State, a barn burner. There's already 2 touchdowns. We're only 4 minutes into this football game. The Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl is heated right now. So let's go get that thing going on ESPN. By the way, 31-9 was the final in that Bahamas Bowl, Buffalo and Charlotte.
Who won? Buffalo?
Buffalo did win that football game. The other games, though, Coulter, and you are going to pick these with me, my friend. We got a triple header for you tomorrow on ESPN Radio, starting at noon Mountain Standard Time. It is the New Mexico Bowl from Albuquerque, New Mexico, the home of the Lobos, Central Michigan, and former home of one Bobby Houck, the San Diego State Aztecs. San Diego State is a 3.5-point favorite. I don't want you to pick these against the spread, Coulter. Just give me winners. The Central Michigan Chippewas, coached by Jimmy McElwain, and San Diego State, 3.5-point favorite for San Diego State in the New Mexico Bowl. Who do you like?
Give me only one. Flip a coin.
I go
Central
Jim McElwain. Give me Jim McElwain, man. Central Michigan.
Matt, coach of the year, think he's still living in a barn?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They built it out for him. If you haven't heard this story, boys and girls, go check it out. We're not going to relay it to you, but Jim McElwain chose by his own to live in a barn over there in at Central Michigan. You know, having gone to Western Michigan, I should know the town that Central Michigan is in. I do not know. I only know that they're the after the New Mexico Bowl at going on to at 3:30 Mountain Standard Time, the Camellia Bowl from Montgomery, Alabama, Florida International, and Arkansas State. Coulter, Arkansas State, a 1-point favorite in the Camellia Bowl. Who do you like? Give me a winner here.
What's the only bowl game?
Is it the Camellia Bowl?
The Camellia.
Wow.
Back-to-back years, 1969. Mike Tillman, a great Grizz Hall of Famer who then went on to play for the Minnesota Vikings. Still one of the biggest men I've ever seen. This guy was playing college football in the 60s. Still 6'8", 300-plus pounds. He is larger than life for sure. So I'll leave you with that piece of trivia. I'll let you pick it. I'm going to say Arkansas State because I've been to Arkansas State Stadium. So there you go.
You know what? Arkansas is getting closer. This does split the difference. FIU, I don't know. I'm not quite there with FIU. Give me Arkansas State. Arkansas State actually has a pretty interesting story. Their coach, his wife, passed away over the course of the season. They had a big.
It's Blake Anderson, right?
Maybe it is.
It's Blake Anderson. Yeah. He used to be the offensive coordinator of North Carolina.
But a real inspirational story, and certainly that's something that they have been rallying around. So, on the sentimental note and on the thoughts going out to the team, I'll take Arkansas State to win that football game.
Who's the Florida International coach? They have a big-time coach. Butch Davis, maybe?
Butch go from Tennessee to FIU? Hard to know. Here you go. Here's the nightcap. Here's the headliner from New Orleans, Louisiana. The R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl. Appalachian State against the formerly don't have a football team, University of Alabama, Birmingham. Look at that. They reintroduced football at UAB, and they're right back into the bowl season. App State, the 20th ranked team in the nation. Here is my concern here. By the way, App State, 16.5-point favorite. Okay? Wow. They're a big favorite over UAB. This is your night game, 7 o'clock on ESPN Radio for you. App State's a huge favorite in this football game. They're number 20 in the nation. My only issue with App State is they really thought that they maybe had a look. It was still a little bit of an outside look, but maybe being the group of 5 New Year's Six Bowl entry, where they end up being the team that gets selected as they're a top 20 team in the nation to go play in the Cotton Bowl or whatever it is. It turns out that it was Memphis who was going to be playing Penn State in the Cotton Bowl, and Memphis is deserving of that. But I wonder if there's a little bit of disappointment that you're playing on the 21st of December instead of the 1st of January as the representative in a top 20 team. Nonetheless, App State's a good football team. I like App State to win the football game.
We thought it was the opening of the early signing period on Wednesday. We talked about quote unquote Brody Greavy's the kid I want to talk a little bit more about next week. Charter school and then came back and kind of But the biggest signing day surprise in my 10 years back in Montana covering signing day was when Garrett Marino signed. Garrett Marino formerly played at Arizona State, 4-star defensive end from Mission Viejo. And when Garrett Marino was abruptly dismissed from the Montana football team, he went to UAB. He was one of the first guys that were part of the class. He was a signee for Montana State in 2013.
Okay.
So he was a guy, one of the few guys that hit the spot of that rule. Signed with UAB, clock stopped. So he's counting him up, 9th-year senior. I mean, the kid was. I was just looking at his bio. He was born in 1993, and he's still playing college football. They have a lot of guys like that. So I think that when you're talking about playing your last football game for a bunch of dudes who are in their mid-20s, I don't know. If I was a betting man, I'd bet UAB to cover that spread just because I think they're going to have a lot to play for as a whole bunch of more than veteran players.
The last game, and I think this is hugely intriguing, Mitsubishi Motors, Las Vegas. Why do I think it's a great bowl game? Boise State, Washington. Chris Peterson's last game as the head coach of Washington against, obviously, the team that he made famous, or helped make famous, actually, in Boise State. How do you like that? Boise State, the number 9 team in the nation. The Huskies, unranked, playing tomorrow. This game on ABC television at 5:30, by the way. I think Washington is going to lose the football game to Boise State. I think they're going to be uninterested in playing in front of the smallest crowd they will have seen probably a decade in Las Vegas, New Mexico, at the campus of UNLV. I think Boise State's going to get it done.
Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Las Vegas.
Oh, did I? Sorry.
Vegas. Ooh, that's.
Yeah. Vegas.
Is Peterson actually coaching?
Yes.
What happens when Chris Peterson reemerges?
I don't know.
We'll see.
Conspiracy theories. Boys and girls, we had a lot of fun. Come on down. We'll be here for a while at the Southgate Mall. Come hang out with us. Have a wonderful Friday and a wonderful football weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Tootell and Nuanez, ESPN Radio.
Christmas Eve.
Gift, think spicy. 'Tis the season for seasoning with gift packs from Alpine Touch. The 4-spice pack includes 4 Big Mountain flavors for just $19.99. Go to alpinetouch.com. ESPN at checkout, you get a free bag of Alpine Touch sunflower seeds. From gift packs to gift cards to the Grand Slam package, Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift for anyone on your list. Go to alpinetouch.com right now to order Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
'Tis the season for a festive holiday feast at the Montana Club with mouth-watering dishes like our cranberry brie walnut tarts and pork Diane, or savor our Chardonnay salmon or blackened shrimp fillet. Be sure to wrap up your celebration with our decadent pecan rum raisin cake. All available for a limited time only through January 5th. See the full menu at montanaclub.com. Happy holidays from all of us at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Thank you for making Polaris America's best-selling off-road brand. During the Polaris Great American Thank You event, financing is as low as 3.99%, and rebates go as high as $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle everything from mountains to mud holes, the legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or elevate your adventure in a versatile Polaris General. Now is the time to get the season's best deals on America's best-selling off-road lineup, with financing as low as 3.99%, APR for 36 months, and rebates up to $3,500 during the Polaris Great American Thank You at Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. All the best machine, gear, apparel, and accessories to enjoy winter this year are at Kurtz. Go check out their 2020 snowmobile inventory right now and all the clothing, helmets, gloves, hats, and jackets to keep you safe, warm, and looking great at Kurtz Polaris and KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 12/31/19 on new 2016 to 2020 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and drive.
RJ Reagan opened up all of you. Those guys continue to hit our those whether you're traveling, Yellowstone guys, jump into Jayco and that's you. And we're handshaking.
It's a rite of passage at First Banking. Explore the great options for your young adult with a visit to Farmer State Bank, online at farmersebank.com or in person at any of our 9 locations in western Montana. Our checking and savings accounts are designed to fit any lifestyle and budget with the flexibility, innovations, and security today's consumers demand. Start out right with Farmer State Bank, or Montana Bank since 1907.